it for my location, to be exact. So let me get this open real quick. I'm going to be doing the rest of the video on the installation of this system. This is radar. This is the newest in radar. It's a 24-inch. It's not super big. Okay, I got my tower that came in, radar tower. It's anodized aluminum, and they give you a wedge with it. But this hardtop kind of leans down, and the boat runs level, so I don't think I'm going to need a wedge. So I'm just looking at the location for this. I thought I was going to have it up here more, but then the radar is going to be hanging out the front. I don't think I want that. So it might end up back here, maybe even further back, maybe right over top of the electronics box. Okay, this is the tower. And what I had to do was find the center. I had to tape over the hole where you're going to run the wires. And you find the center, and then I drew lines out to the edges from the center. So that was the center. This is the print they give you. And this is going to end up going on here. And it'll be taped on. They got center lines. It'll be taped on, and the holes will be marked. I already pretty much figured out where the holes are. I made a template up out of a piece of paper. I marked the holes and then transferred it onto here. Put the unit up to see how it looked. It looked pretty good. I wanted it back about a 1/4 inch more, so I moved this line back. I'm going to move this one back, so the holes are going to go back, and that's where it's going to be. It's a little difficult. You got to work at it. My mechanical drawing skills kind of got lost over the years, but it should be close enough. It's not exact science here. Okay, so I have the template here, and this is the front of the boat. It shows you the direction, and I have a center line like I said on the plate, and there's a center line here, so you line up the center line front and back, and then I taped it to the plate so it doesn't move. And these are the drill holes, 4 drill holes I have to drill, and I'll get a center punch and mark these holes right through the template, and then we'll drill the holes. I believe it's 3/8 bolt, so we'll get a clearance bit, and we'll drill all the holes, and then that'll be it for the hole drilling. The wire, I'll probably run the wire. This is where the wire is going to run underneath the unit, and I'll drop it down through the center of the tower, or I'll go out the back and then go down. There's a hole here. I could go down, go into this hole, and then into the hardtop. I might come out and go down. Okay, so we have our holes marked out here, and we're going to drill. They recommend 3/8 bit for this size bolt, but I don't have a 3/8, so I'm going to use the next size smaller, and if I have to get more clearance, I'll go to a bigger size. So what you want to do is get it where you got the hole marked. right, we got all 4 holes drilled. Now I'll clean up the surface a little bit on the top and bottom, and then we'll get our unit over here and get it mounted up. Okay, I got all the bolts started in there. I'm bolting this up so I can get it on top of the boat and get the location on the top of the boat with the radar unit on this base. Now the reason I installed it on this elevated base, they call it a tower, is the beam, when it shoots the beam out, it's out on an angle. It goes like on a cone shape. And if it's too low to the hardtop, it might not clear the furthest part of the hardtop. It'll clear the front and it should clear the sides, but the back, by the time the beam gets to the back, it's going to hit the hardtop. So you're going to lose about 50% of your signal. So that's why I spent the money on the tower, to get it elevated. So I'm getting all the bolts in. One hole was a little tight. If you drill your holes and one is a little tight, you can't get the bolt in. What I used was a rat tail file, something you would sharpen a chainsaw blade with, and I just elongated the hole a little bit on the tight spot, and it went right in. All right, so that's on there, and now we'll get out to the boat with it. Between these big washers, and that's 31.5. So I took half of that, and that gave me the center point. So from there, we located the unit, and I got the first hole marked, and all 4 holes are going to come out inside the electronics box, so there won't be nothing exposed underneath the hardtop on the outside. So I marked the first hole. We're going to get that one drilled, and then we're going to go around and get all 4 drilled, and we'll locate the hole for the wire, which is going to be in the center of the tower, so that won't be seen. And we'll anchor this down. Okay, so we're going to drill the first hole. I'm going to use stainless steel bolts. They're 1/4 So I'm drilling a clearance hole for 1/4. And you want to drill straight. And like I said, when you drill fiberglass, you run the drill backwards. To get the hole started, this way you don't crack the gel coat and get spider cracks later on. So then you put it in forward. Okay, we went all the way through, and we'll go down and check out where it came out. Okay, so we came out right here, which is right where we expected it. So we'll have one over here, 2, 3, 4 holes we're gonna drill. And then what I'll probably do is get a chunk of plastic and make a backing plate, or they call it a fish plate. It's a backing plate that's going to go under here because this is very thin. And with the wind and everything, the forces on that radar, I don't want it to come loose or bust some of the bolts. So I'm going to reinforce this with a piece of plastic plate, which you'll see later on. Okay, so what I'm doing, I took the bottom and I made a template here for the sides. And this is going to be a backing plate, a fish plate that's going to go underneath. To give it more support, because the fiberglass is very thin underneath there. So this will be sitting on top, this will be underneath. We'll put our holes. We'll put the hole for the wire to go through, and let's get to cutting. Okay, so we have our backing plate. This is the plate that's going to go underneath. The tower is going to sit here, but I'm going to use this right now as a template. I got the bolts in the holes. I'm going to drill the hole for the cable. This is where the cable is going to come from the radar. It's going to come down through and go down into the electronics box. So I'm going to use this to drill the hole. And that should be it up here. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to silicone the tower down. I'm waiting for a seal tight connector. The cable's going to come out of the radar into the seal tight connector into the tower and then down through the hull. Okay, I got the seal tight connector fastened to the tower. Now all I have to do is drill the hole for the cable to go through there, and the radar is going to sit on top of this. I'm going to seal this up. I don't need this opening here, so I'm going to seal it up so no water gets in. This will be sealed, and then we'll silicone around the base. So we're going to drill our hole now for the cable. I'm filming this with my new underwater cameras. These are Midland 450s. And I just want to see the difference in quality compared to the GoPros. Okay, what I did was I drilled out this rubber seal. You drill it to the size of the cable. So that'll go on the cable. This line is going to be for an anchor light or running light that I got to put up on the radar, because the radar is going to be higher than the light that I have on the boat now, so I'm putting an extra light up there. This way I'll have two. If one goes out, I have one going. And this is going to be going to the radar. We're going to hook this up. Now when you buy these seal fittings, seal tight fittings, you want to make sure you get a big enough diameter opening where you can pass your connector through there, because you don't want to have to cut the connector off the cable. So you want to be able to pass it through the opening. So be aware of that when you're buying these things. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm going to put the tower down. So I have an old tube of 5200. It clogged up on me, so I had to cut the top off. I want to use it up. So I know it's not for things like this. It's below water sealant, but it's old. It's an old tube, and I don't want to waste it. So I want this tower glued down really, really good so it doesn't move. And that's why I'm putting this sealant on here. You don't want water infiltration in the holes because it'll saturate the hard top and create a lot of problems. So you want to seal it really, really good and seal the screws. When you put the screws in, you want to seal the screw head. Okay. All right, so now the screws are in the electronics box. I have my fish plate here. And I pre-fit this. You want to pre-fit everything to make sure everything's going to line up. So I'm going to get this over the bolts, and then I'm going to get these flat washers and elastic stop nuts on there. Okay, so I have the tower in place. I got all the screw heads siliconed underneath, so this thing will be perfectly sealed. And then I have the seal tight connector in the back. Now if you don't have to use 5200. You could use a good quality marine silicone, you know, for above water. Okay, so we got our backing plate on there. I'll come back in later. These are regular nuts I had to put on because the screw was turning. Once that silicone hardens up there, I can come back in and put the elastic stop nuts on. So that's on. Now we're going to work on the wires, pulling the wires down. All right, we're back on the boat here doing the radar installation, and this is the cable that's gonna send the signal to the lowrance unit. That's gonna be pulled down this pipe here. We're gonna go in. I pulled the wire out for the radio, so we're going to hook both of these together. These two lines we're going to hook together. We're going to pull everything back down the pipe into the console, and then we'll come up from underneath to the unit. And we got a pulling cord. I'm going to take and put a heavier cord in there. We're going to go with something like this. Not that you want to put a lot of pressure on it, because you don't want to bend this cable too much. I have to make one bend here, which is a little bit sharper than I want, and you don't want to pull on this. You want to connect it back here and pull on the main part of the wire. So that's the plan. Okay, so we have the tower silicone down, and I got the radar unit up here. I got a couple of bolts in to hold it. I got to take it back off because they didn't give me the brackets that hold the cable to the radar unit underneath. So I'm just going to have it sitting there as I do this. So you want to feed your cable down through. In this case, it's going through the watertight connector. You push it down in there. You don't want to kink this cable, because if you break it or something like that, you got problems. And this is your seal tight. This is split, so that'll go over the wire, but you want to make sure you have this facing the right way when you put when you put your wire down, so you don't have to take everything apart again. Okay, I'm going to go down and pull the wire a little bit. Okay, so we got our wire down in the electronics box. This wire, like I said, I'm putting a light up here because the radar is blocking the running light and anchor light in the back, and you have to have 360-degree clearance for a Coast Guard approval. So I'm going to run this wire down in there, and I'm going to power it up, so when I put the running lights on, that light will come on. Okay, so we're done up here. Now we're going to go down below. Okay, so what we're going to do, I got my pulling cord here, and we're going to take and hook this up. I have a cable tie over here. I'm going to be pulling on this wire here. You don't want to pull on these fittings when you do this, because you'll pull these fittings right off. So you run your pulling string up, and then you tape it. I'm going to tape all this up all the way to the end, and we're going to pull both of these back through there again. Okay, so this is what it looks like, all taped up. You don't want to skimp on the tape, because the more tape, it'll help the fittings go through, because you'll taper it down. So hopefully this will go through like this. So I have a cord here that I'm pulling on. You want to put a little tension on this. At the same time, you want to push the cable in up here. You want to, push it in by hand to help it down through the pipe. And so far, we got it about halfway in. Okay, we got it. I'm going to leave a little slack up here. And here it is down here. This is the beginning of it. And it went right through with no problem. Just take your time and slide it through so you don't damage the cable. And this should be plenty enough down here. The radar was a 10-foot cable. I was worried a little bit if I was going to have enough, but it's plenty long enough. Okay. I was waiting on these two clamps. They hold the cable to the radar unit. They weren't in the package for some reason. So I called Navico. Navico owns Simrad, B&G, and Lowrance. And I told them I'm missing those parts, and once they got on it, they expedited them to me. And I just put them on, so we're going to finish this installation today. Lowrance is very, very good. Anytime I have a problem, I call them for technical assistance as far as running the 12-inch units, and they always answer and they always solve the problem. Really, really good tech support from that company. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here. The dome is installed. I used an 8-inch tower. It's all silicone down. I had to put an anchor light up top on the unit. They make a tower with the pole that you could put the light on, but I didn't get that one. I saved some money on this tower, so I just siliconed it up above. And everything's wired in down below. There's a 5-amp fuse on the unit, and I ran it to a toggle switch. This would power the power supply to the unit. I could turn it on and off here, And then you use your lowrance. I got another lowrance unit that the radar is going to be used with. And you program and you run your radar with the screen. This just turns the power on and off to the unit so the power doesn't stay on all the time. And that's it. That's the installation. This is the wire here to power it up. Now what I'll do eventually is do a little video on both screens running with the radar, the map, and I'm going to show some different views at the fish finder with them in the fish finder mode. I haven't used them all yet because I got side scan, I got structure scan, I got 3D imaging, and I want to get to a spot where I can just study these for a while and see what the differences are. So that'll be in a video coming up in the future. So this was a relatively easy project. I installed this 12-inch lowrance screen. I have a video on that. They're really, if you have some mechanical ability, they're very easy to install. You need some tools, some hole drilling tools, and some wiring skills. And you know, you don't have to take it to a professional. You know, if you do it right, you can do it yourself. Okay, thanks for watching.